It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookie and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, welcome to the preview podcast once again. I'm sorry if that intro really lagged for all of you. We're not working at a big capacity here. Or maybe you were just staring at me waiting for me to see the video finish, but oh well. Welcome to episode 65, TradeMate Sports Betting Podcast. We'll be doing a live preview, as always, of the EPL Game Week 10. And we're actually going to be talking a bit of UFC Fight Night, Blaydes versus Lewis. Our man Ryan Bruno, smart sports trader, is going to join me and George about halfway through the podcast. So that should be very exciting. Always great stuff from Ryan. Sadly missing Haru today, as you all probably heard last week. He's had to leave the podcast. So just me and George, just holding the ship here. Just talk as much EPL as possible to fill the Haru void. So yeah, we're live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Please send through your questions on either of those platforms. If anything about the weekend's games or just betting in general, anything about the fights we'll talk about later. Hit us up and we'll get to them either during the preview or at the end. But I'll welcome in George. How are you, mate?
Keeping well, mate. Keeping well. Obviously, getting towards the end of the second lockdown in the UK, so thankful I own a hat to hide the mop that is happening underneath it. But yeah, other than that, I'm doing all right, mate. I'm doing well.
Yeah, nice. I was getting shit from my friends the other day. They were all like, "Why the fuck do you wear a hat inside?" During all these videos. I'm like, mate, back in a couple of weeks ago, I just hadn't shaved my head in a very, very long time. So that's the only reason I wear a hat indoors, because it's just an absolute mop sometimes.
Oh, it's just ridiculous, mate. It's ridiculous, but yeah, just looking forward to everything opening back up in the UK, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it must be tough.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Bad.
I can imagine. All right, mate. Last week you did good again, mate. I think you're at what are you at, 7 from the last 9 now, I think. So you had under 3 goals for City, 1 card for City, and Spurs to score at a nice price of 2.1, and that came through for you, mate. Another big win.
Yeah. Obviously, always good to get the win. Slightly annoying, obviously, being a City fan, but I tried to take the bias out of it. You could kind of see what was going to happen. And it literally played out that exact same way, dominating the ball, but not really doing a lot with it. Spurs very efficient. I saw a crazy stat in something like when it got to half time, something like the last 5 and a half games that City have played against Spurs. City have had like 60 shots. Spurs have had maybe 7 in that time. They've scored 5 goals and we've scored 2. It was it's just crazy, absolutely crazy. Like we're not very efficient in front of goal at the moment, so it's always gonna happen. So yeah, glad to make it 7 out of 9 and hopefully make it 8 out of 10 this week.
Yeah, awesome, mate. All right, quiz question of the week. We're gonna go the theme of Maradona. Obviously, sadly passed away Wednesday or Thursday. I get a bit mixed up with the time zones, but so I thought I'd get a Maradona quiz question in there this week. What was the name of Maradona's first ever club? I'll give you a few options, mate. Newell Old Boys, Argentinos Junior, Boca Juniors, and River Plate. So we'll see how you and Ron will give Ryan the heads up when he comes in too. Maybe he's listening right now, mate. Start doing your research, and we'll get to that at the back end of the podcast. Pretty big week of fixtures here. I was finding it quite hard to just find 3 games to go through. You've got some cracking games. So we'll go through Southampton, Man Utd, Chelsea, Tottenham, and Arsenal, Wolves. All these games are on Sunday, European time, one after the other. So you've got Southampton and Man Utd during the time, I would say probably like 3 p.m. in the Arvo. Then you've got Chelsea Tottenham 5:30 in the Arvo. This is European time. I think I'm going off here, and then Arsenal Wolves at 8:15 European time. Just done some quick maths there because I'm looking at the Australian times here, so this is quite hard. But Toby, our producer, mate, if you just want to get the odds up on the screen for the Southampton Man United game, we'll go through that first. So here are the odds for 1x2. We have best odds for Man United, 2.04 at the moment. Draw, 3.65 or 3.66. And then Southampton for the win at 4.1. Best odds there. As George talks, I can get the odds up for the handicaps and over-under lines and stuff like that. But just a few quick notes on this fixture. Obviously, Southampton will be stoked at their start to the season, sitting in 5th spot at the moment. Manchester United, after their loss to Arsenal, have won their last 2. But for me, I guess, I don't know, it's still far from convinced you'd have to be with Man United so far. But yeah, I mean, these kind of matches, they seem to be the matches that Manchester United quite like, away from home against, a decent outfit. How are you seeing this game, George?
Well, yeah, again, I do slightly favour United, which always pains me as a City fan. But no, just looking at the stats, really, going through it, and Southampton are winless in their last 8 Premier League meetings with United, and that's since they won at Old Trafford 1-0 in January 2016. United haven't lost any of their last 9 Premier League away games against Southampton, winning 5 and drawing 4 of those. In fact, the very defeat at St Mary's in the competition came back in 2003. So they like going down south to see Southampton. They tend to do quite well there. Interesting as well, United have come from behind to win 9 Premier League games against Southampton. So only them themselves have won more from behind against an opponent in a competition. That's against Newcastle. So it's got all the ingredients there for potentially an exciting game. Obviously, United had a very good result during the week against Istanbul Başakşehir, so obviously they were buoyed by that. But at the same time, regards to that, I like Southampton in terms of what they've done. With Ralph Hasenhüttl is very solid and stable down there. Ever since that, 9-1 drubbing, or 9-0 was it, against Leicester? He coached himself out of that position. They're a very solid team now. They've got some very good players. They've recruited well. I like the fact they got Walcott back. Ward-Prowse obviously pulling the strings in midfield. But I don't think they're going to have enough to kind of get 3 points against United here. I think the trends are going to continue. I think they'll come away. I don't think it'll be a landslide. I think it'll be a tight, potentially 1-0, 2-1 victory, something like that. But I'd have to favour United in this. So it's interesting to see them at just above evens.
Yeah. Are you taking into account the fact that, Manchester United, I guess, seem to perform in these kind of games? Like, I mean, if it was Manchester United at home, which is weird to say, if it was Manchester United at home, do you reckon you'd be as confident?
It's a weird thing to say, isn't it? You look at the times.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
I'm more confident of United away from home than I am when they play at Old Trafford. If you just said that 10 years ago, people would have laughed you out the door. But they seem to just be more confident on their travels. Obviously, they've had an abysmal start to the season at home. So you could argue, is it becoming like a vicious circle? The pressure's building up on them playing at home. So they obviously need to get a result there. The pressure's not so much on there. I know you haven't got any of the fans or anything like that, but regardless, the world's still watching. So no, I think away from home, they're much more fancied this season. And like I said before, with everything's going towards it, all of the stats behind it, the way they play, I can't see past United really. So I personally would have had them at odds, if we're going with decimals, more around 1.8. So to see them above evens, for me, it's good value there.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say, you wouldn't think it's to do with where they're playing. It's more so just their tactics at home and away. And I mean, maybe, when they're at home, they should just play the exact same way that they like to play when they're away, or at least hopefully the team that they're playing can press the advantage a bit more.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was just kind of, as well as that, looking at the personnel that might be missing for United. Obviously got a few defenders out, both Lindelof and Wan-Bissaka, both doubtful. Where you've got Luke Shaw and Eric Bailly, who are out indefinitely. Paul Pogba's obviously missing as well. So obviously Southampton will look at that, particularly with the pace they've got. But for them, they've got Danny Ings, who's out as well. He's been fantastic for them over the past couple of seasons, so he's a big miss still. Nathan Redmond's going to be out as well. But, Walcott's coming to the fold. He's kind of taking the onus as one of the sort of main men, that senior figure to kind of try and lead by example. He's been, whenever I've watched him, okay, he's not been lightning in terms of scoring goals and this and the other, but he's looked very bright and creative and like rallying the troops, so to speak. So I think this, like I said, this got all the makings of a really, really good game. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of goals in it. Like I said to you, I think it'll be tight. Southampton have kept a clean sheet in their last 3 home Premier League matches, so they're going to make things difficult for United. But interestingly, they've been winning at Southampton. This is winning at both half-time and full-time in their last 3 home matches. So everything's there for it to be. It could be one of those crazy things, when we've seen 0-0s in the past where the scoreline would suggest it was really dull, but the game itself has actually been one of the most exciting people have seen for a while. There's just been no goals. So I think it could be a 1-0, 2-0 to United maybe, if that was what I was going to go with. I just think whilst Southampton, as good as they are and as stable as they are, without Danny Ings up top, they're a little bit toothless. And I think United have got that little bit more firepower and a few more ways to win, obviously with Bruno Fernandes in the side. Not saying obviously people throwing themselves down for penalties and stuff, but nevertheless they create situations that allows for that to happen. They make things happen. And I think they'll do a lot more of that than Southampton will. And I think they'll test them a lot more. So like I said, I'd see this being a tight win for United.
Yeah, okay. And has Ings been out recently? or is the first game he's missing?
No, he's been out for a few weeks now. I mean, I can just do a double check of that just to get an actual sort of timeline as to how long he's been injured, because I know he's been out for a while. And as I said, he's still a huge miss for them. Because I think he was one of the top goal scorers last year, wasn't he? Was it last year? Last season? Yeah, he was one of the top goal scorers. So again, I'm just looking here now, and there we go. Yes, obviously it's a knee injury. He's not potentially going to return next month, in December around the 19th, they reckon. But yeah, he's completely ruled out at the moment. But the manager said, he's walking around quite well. There's still some time to go. He looks good, no complications, and it was a very minor surgery. So I think now it's just a case of the rehabilitation side of things, strengthening, getting back to fitness. But no, we should see him towards around the 19th of December, they think. So that'll be a welcome boost for Southampton when he does return, because his goals are severely missed.
Okay, cool. Well, there we go. George likes over evens for Manchester United, and just looking at all the odds here, there's nothing lower than 1.95 to the naked eye. You can get some pretty good odds there. I've just noticed Smarket's sportsbook on the old odds checker here. I never knew that they had a sportsbook, but there you go. So they've got the best odds here at 2.04 and not far behind of the exchanges. So there you go. There's a Manchester United Southampton game. We'll move on, mate. Chelsea versus Tottenham. I'll put the odds up on the screen here. Probably the game of the round here. You've got Chelsea at the highest odds once again at the Smarkets Sportsbook. Never heard of them before, but here we go. 2.16. The draw 3.7, and Tottenham at 3.7 also to win. So there's the best odds I could find there. Chelsea, I mean, in terms of your healthiness of your squad, it's just about as good as it gets right now for Chelsea if you compare them to all of the other teams in the EPL. And they've also won their last 3 EPL games, albeit to reasonably poor competition. I can't remember exactly who the teams have been, but they've all been sides kind of in that bottom 5, bottom 10. Spurs, pretty similar, 4 wins in a row at the moment in the EPL. Massive win over City last week, like we spoke about earlier. And looking at the XG data, Tottenham have been a lot stronger away from home recently. So this should favour them in this game. They do have a few injuries, though, in defence, or at least, Alderweireld's definitely out, and possibly Doherty and Tanganga could be both out too. So that could be something to look out for Spurs. What do you think about this one, George?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Definitely. I mean, obviously for me, I'd focus on kind of the cards aspect of things. So I think Paul Tierney's the ref for this one. And I was just looking at the stats, for the last 20 games that he's played, he's handed out an awful lot of cards. In fact, the away side has picked up at least a card. I believe he's awarded, in the last 20 games, he's awarded the away side a card in, I think, 17 of them, which is, I think that's what 85% of the games that he referees. And we all know Tottenham against Chelsea it's a card fest more often than not. For this one, for me personally, I quite like both teams to see 2+ cards, and that's around 11-8 on Bet365, and it's landed in 2 of the last 3 head-to-heads. And looking at the other stats as well, Chelsea have won their last 3 Premier League games against Spurs. That's more than they had in their previous 8 against them. As well as that, Tottenham have won just 1 of their last 34 away games against Chelsea in all competitions, drawing 11 and losing 22, and losing the last 3 in a row since a 3-1 victory back in 2018. Spurs have kept just 1 clean sheet in their last 17 away matches against the Blues as well. That's in all competitions. What were the other stats I had here as well? So, but no, just going through it. That was it. The other one here, Tottenham are, in terms of in form, if you just look at form, they're the best side in the Premier League at the moment. Since their opening day defeat to Everton, they've not lost a single game. I'm trying to think. I think they've won 6 and drawn 2, something of that nature. But they've been brilliant. To be fair, you can't deny it. They were excellent against City. They handled it well because, I mean, I know you're an Arsenal fan, but you'll know with Spurs, their defence has always been a bit suspect. You always think, but they're going to concede goals. It is Spurs. It's what they do. They're famous for snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. It's what they do. But against City, they handled them brilliantly. The defence was exceptional. They knew exactly what City was trying to do, and they picked them off. They took their chances. They were efficient. And that's all you can ask. So they adapt well. And this is why I think this game will be interesting, because they do have a torrid record against Chelsea, particularly at Stamford Bridge. But Jose Mourinho will know how to handle it. He'll know how to get his players fired up for it. And yeah, this one I think could be the game. I think this one's got game of the weekend written all over it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, it should be a cracker. I look at those odds on Spurs, and I think there could be a little bit of value there. The only thing that scares me is the fact that they could be without a few defenders come game time when they release the team. So let's just say all their defenders are out. George, do you reckon? Would you still favour them in this game, or would you be maybe hanging towards Chelsea in the draw?
It's difficult for me. I mean, I wouldn't like to pick a result of who's going to win, because you just don't know. I mean, I was watching Chelsea recently, and I love Timo Werner. I think he's a cracking striker, but he doesn't look like he's quite settling at the moment. He's missed a few decent chances. I know he scored goals, but he's still a brilliant player nonetheless. And once it all clicks for Chelsea, they're a far superior side to Tottenham. They are. I know Tottenham obviously got one of the world's best centre forwards in Harry Kane, Son Heung-min playing. He's just Mr. Consistent. He's excellent. But they do have a torrid record against Chelsea away, and if they can get that monkey off their back, then they're obviously great. And I think it'll be a great game. But I'm not sure I see them beating Chelsea. We know with Spurs, they can go on these great runs, but the wheels fall off at some point. They always do. Will it come away at Chelsea this weekend? I mean, all the statistics would suggest yes, it would. But games aren't played just via statistics, are they? So if it was me, I mean, just kind of looking at price here. What did you say the best price was for Chelsea?
2.1, something around there on most bookmakers. Yeah.
Yeah. See, for me, I still think that's a bit low considering the form that Spurs are in. I mean, the Spurs are on looking at Bet365, and Spurs are 13-5, which quite long odds for a team that's lost 1 game all season. I wouldn't like to predict who's going to win this, but so for me, I think if I was to have a go on this one, it would purely be from a cards perspective, because I think the full-time result is just too difficult to predict. You're not going to be going with any valid reasoning as to why you're picking a particular bet, and because it could go either way. Just purely for the fact that Chelsea at 21-20 or 2.1, as you said, I just think that's a bit short. If I'm honest, I think that's a bit short for. I want them a bit longer to bat them outright to win. So for me, yeah, it'd be a purely cards based bet, because I think this one could get quite feisty in terms of Tottenham thinking, well, we can do one over on Chelsea here. So far, we look like the most consistent team in the league. We want to show it. So I think one of your comments there just said Tottenham double chance has got to be value. Yeah, I think it could be, given that Tottenham are they're quite overpriced in my book, and even draw with Tottenham is 8-11. I still think that's a good shout. I think it should be a lot lower than that.
Yeah.
So from me, it'd be a cards perspective bet for both teams to see 2 cards or more.
Okay, and what were the odds for that one, mate?
So the odds for that one I found were 11-8. So for example, if you start £10 on that, you get £23.70 in returns, so £13.70 profit. And I think that's good value. Like I said, it's landed in the last 2 out of 3 games. I think Spurs will be wanting to put one over on Chelsea. This has become, in fact, I was speaking some of my family were Spurs fans, and they said now it feels like Tottenham Chelsea is the one we look forward to more than Tottenham Arsenal.
Get lost.
Honestly, this is what I said. This is what I said.
If they're your family, mate, you should be ashamed. You should be absolutely ashamed, mate. This is a game for second place. This is for second place in London. All right, who's the second best team? So.
But yeah, no, he says this is one we look forward to more, and like that we want to win more. I'll take that how you will. I'm just passing it on, but I think they still want to get. It's a London derby. So and they do hate each other. So I think there'll be a lot in this one. We remember that game of I think it was when Tottenham were going for the title against Leicester, and they played Chelsea, and it was the funniest thing I think I've ever seen in my life. It was I don't think there was one player that didn't get booked. The referee was busy, requested a new notebook at half time. It was insane, but that's what this fixture throws up. So yeah, I fancy cards in this one.
Yeah, most certainly, mate. All right, so easy. Let's go on to the talking of Arsenal. Arsenal versus Wolves here. I'll get the odds up on my screen. So yeah, we've got Arsenal here. I don't know what's going on with this Market Sportsbook, but they're just producing the best odds here. So we'll just keep going with them. They seem to be way out from the market, so maybe not. Let's just go with the average price here. Arsenal at 2.1. The draw something around 3.25, 3.3. And Wolves to win at around 3.9. Best odds there. Another shocker against Leeds, as we all know. Arsenal were just, very, very poor again. Hopefully, Partey will be back for this one. Saka, I think they just announced that Saka could be back, or is going to be back on the weekend. But I think they're pretty doubtful over Partey, which is a pretty decent loss. Pepe suspended, of course, and I've just written in my notes here that I hope Willian is still injured. Wolves, we have they might be missing a few defensive players through injury also. And yeah, I know their underlying data has been quite poor so far this season, but I just get the feeling that the odds, I don't know, they could be a bit out on this one. And I've written here too, I'd keep an eye on the unders. So I can get the unders odds. I think the lines, I think it might be set at under 2. I'm not exactly sure. Sorry, I'm really bad at multitasking here. I'll just get up the over-under odds on this one. So under 1.5 goals, you can get 3s. Under 2.5, yeah, it's sitting at around 1.67 there. So they've obviously gone in quite a bit. So I assume the line would be sitting something around under 2 would have to be my guess, which I don't think is probably not the worst bet you could ever place.
The unders have become synonymous with Wolves games, haven't they? They just have it. They tend to be very low scoring. This one I was just kind
Same
of
with Arsenal.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I was just having a look at the latest Arsenal injuries. Obviously, absentees. Naturally, obviously Pepe suspended. Just looking through it, you're about Partey and Saka. Partey looks like he's going to be out until roughly, I believe it might be until Sunday, but whether he's available or not, he's basically continuing to be assessed. So he probably won't be available for this weekend's match to continue that rehabilitation. And interesting, I don't actually think Saka's going to be available. I think they said it's very doubtful that he'll be back for Sunday. He's been in a lot of pain for the last few days, so they can't say if he's going to be fit or not, but it's looking very unlikely. So definitely without Saka, definitely without Partey. Similar with Willian as well. He's not travelled to Mould tonight, so he's going to continue to be assessed. So the injuries look like they're racking up for Arsenal a bit. They've got the best Egyptian in the Premier League, as we always say. He's not got a return date as of yet. He's currently being assessed, El Neni. So he's out. What's Kolasinac looks like? I don't know what's happened to Kolasinac, but
he's got COVID.
Oh, that'd be why. Yes, there's no return date for him. So he's it said he's asymptomatic. It's just, I guess, a case of making sure everything's okay. But I think the important things to take from that is no Partey and probably no Saka either, which isn't good.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I'm still very surprised to see Arsenal above evens to win at home to Wolves. They've lost just one of their last 19 top flight meetings with them. That was going down 3-1 at Molineux in 2019. Wolves are winless in their last 9 away league games against Arsenal, drawing 4 and losing 5. But Arsenal have lost their last 2 home Premier League games by an aggregate score of 4-0. and they've not lost 3 in a row at home in the league without scoring since a run of 4 back in 1908. So that's a record you're not going to be wanting to break anytime soon. So I don't think you will. I think even though it's been quite obvious you've been struggling to score lately, I still think you'll find a way through Wolves, if I'm honest. But yeah, I don't see this one being an absolute thriller. I think you're right with the unders. That'd be sort of the way I'd be looking to play it as well.
Yeah, under 1.5 at 3. I mean, that looks good to me. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if it was scoreless. I can't confidently predict either team to win, to be honest.
No.
So I would just be playing the unders most likely on this one. Arsenal are most likely going to come with the front 3 of what's his name, Aubameyang up top, and then maybe Lacazette might get a gig. I don't know. And then on either flank, they're missing Saka, so you're going to have Willian and maybe Reece Nelson, something like that. And just about all those players I've mentioned are just tremendously out of form. If Partey's out too, then you've got a problem in midfield. Ceballos will probably play there, maybe alongside Xhaka.
Yeah.
Maybe Willock will get a gig. I mean, just in terms of creating goals, it's going to be very, very bleak from an Arsenal perspective. So I'm not at all going to predict. I think they're probably at the right price now, I'd say. I'd probably disagree with you there. 2.1, something around there, I think is way too short to take on Arsenal at the moment.
Yeah.
You just can't really back any team with either confidence, but with confidence, you'd maybe say the unders on this one.
Yeah. I mean, it was just kind of, to be fair, but actually just going over a bit more research as well, looking at it, Arsenal have scored just 1 goal in their last 5 Premier League games, failing to score in either of their last 2. Looking at that as well, I think only Tottenham have conceded fewer Premier League goals this season than Wolves. But coming into this weekend games, Wolves have scored fewer goals than any other side in the top half of the table. So as we've already attested to, everything points to the unders on the particular game. So I think if you're looking for a bet that's going to win on this one, it's got to be, I wouldn't go on results. I would potentially go on the unders. And you've already mentioned under 1.5 at 3s is not a bad shout. With what's going on, I think that's a very good price for that. It would be interesting to see how many times that would have landed in their sort of recent head-to-heads and that sort of thing, or in both their recent games combined. But for this particular game, going into it with the stats with it, yeah, I'd be tempted to have a play on that because there's nothing else I'd be having a play on. I don't want to touch it for cards because the referee for this one, Michael Oliver, slightly inconsistent when it comes to the Premier League matches with cards. So the unders, I think, is the best play here.
Yeah, I mean, we just got a question come through. I'm not going to try to pronounce your name, mate, because I'll absolutely botch it. But he says, how do you decide how greedy to get with the unders? Any advice? I'm not quite sure what he means by that. Do you know what it, like in terms of greed, does he mean?
I think he sort of means, for example, you could play it safe with this one. So under 2.5 is 8 to 13, which obviously is below evens. But if you combine it with something, it's still okay. It's not great, or whether to go outright on the 2 to 1. Under 1.5 instead. I mean, for me personally, I don't know how obviously a lot of you guys bet, but I do it with units. So, for example, a certain amount to me is 1 unit, and my max will be say a 3-unit bet. But if I like something with those kind of long odds, 2 goals and the bet's done for under 1.5, but I might have half a unit on it instead because it's always bet what you can afford to lose. So, how greedy you decide to be with what one you pick should also be reflected in how much you put on it. So it all depends. To answer your question, it all depends on what you're planning on staking on it. But if you're going to try and get a higher value but with more risk, then obviously your bet size should reflect that as well.
Yeah, it shouldn't really matter what bet it is, whether it's unders, overs, 1x2, whatever. It's just you should have a staking plan, mate. So
absolutely, yeah.
Apply that there. All right. Let's. Have you got any other? I haven't asked you about this. Do you have any other bets around Europe, mate?
I've not, again, because a lot of the time with Europe, refs aren't always released until sometimes Friday, so it can be quite difficult. But I am planning on doing, which is return to my Twitter lately, which obviously will link at the end and plug. But I'll do a games of interest section on there. So because it gets so annoying for me, even myself, because I want to kind of get everything done and ready for the weekend. But then when refs aren't, for example, with the Bundesliga, they don't announce the rest till on the day of the games, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So no, I'll be looking around tomorrow and find stuff because there's some really nice games I like the look of. But if the referee's not great, I shan't be touching any of them. But yeah, so no, we'll see. But
All right.
but yeah, did you want me to see about any other Premier League games? Because there was only one other I think I've sort of potentially.
Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Yeah. So for me, it was just looking here. It was the Brighton-Liverpool game actually, and the only reason I'm sort of going with this one is my favourite referee of the moment in the Premier League, Stuart Atwell, is taking charge of this one, and just kind of going through it. Stuart Atwell here, in his last 20 appearances, he's shown the home side a card in 19 of them. I believe he's shown 2+ cards to the home side in 16 of them, so that's 80% of games. And looking at the price for Brighton to pick up 2 cards at home to Liverpool, they were 5 to 6, so just under even. So yeah, I think that's a great price for them to pick up 2 cards. They do tend to pick up cards at home. So I'd have it more around maybe the 4 to 9 mark or 4 to 7, but 5 to 6, just under evens. Yeah, I think that's a great price. Just kind of looking at that one really. Stuart Atwell tends to deliver. He's very consistent with his cards. And like I said, Liverpool, they've usually when teams play Liverpool, it's very hard for them to even get close to making the challenge. But lately, with teams with Liverpool having all of these injuries and the new players coming in, they're much more even. We saw last night, they weren't at their best at all against Atalanta. I know it's a different competition and what have you, but nevertheless, they're having to chop people around, chop and change things to try and keep people fit. So it's a lot more competitive. And I think Brighton, they're going to obviously want to try and inflict another one over Liverpool, thinking they've got a chance. Brighton playing some good football at times. With Stuart Atwell in charge, the fouls that Brighton commit, that when I've watched them play, that are very guard-worthy and like dragging people back, last-ditch challenges, mistimed. Interesting to see. I think Lewis Dunk should be back for this one as well. He's always a catalyst for them getting cards. So yeah, Brighton to pick up 2 cards. I think that's a great bet at 5 to 6.
Okay, cool. Interesting point with Brighton too is that I was looking at the XG data, and they are, if you look at their ratio between XG for and XG against, I think they're ranked 3rd in the Premier League at the moment.
All right.
It's pretty remarkable. I think I couldn't tell you who's above them. Probably Liverpool and someone else. But yeah, if you minus their 4 minus the against. Four minus again. You get a nice little ratio there, and they're coming 3rd. So yeah, interesting point about Brighton there. So maybe they've been a tad unlucky this season so far. All right, is Ryan there, Toby? Can we bring him in, talk a bit of UFC now that we've covered most of the football stuff? Or has he not rocked up yet? I'm assuming the fact that he's not in yet, that he has not rocked up yet. So we have to fill a bit of air here until the big man rocks up. Have we got any questions here that we can get up in the meantime? Or maybe Toby's gone too. Toby's gone to sleep.
I did see a question there, though, of interesting someone brought up about, I think it was the same chap that asked us how greedy we get. But he said, is the Mourinho's second season heroics a factor? I don't know how much of a factor it really is, but we all like to say, it's always the way. The typical Mourinho fashion is he'll go into somewhere, won't be great at first, and the second season they're fantastic, win this, that, and the other. Third season, utter decline. People are getting annoyed at him inside the club, and then he leaves. It always tends to be the way. It's been that way at Chelsea, I believe Real Madrid, everywhere that he's been, particularly at United, it happened as well. I mean, my family are convinced they're winning the title this season. Doesn't matter how many times I tell them who they are, but. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess time will tell. The stats speak for themselves in that they are on form, current form, the best team in the Premier League at this moment. But is it sustainable? Will it carry on? And where will they end up? I mean, it is a weird season with obviously COVID and everything. It's a bit of an anomaly. It's a strange season. So who knows? Could we see Harry Kane lifting that Premier League title at the end of?
Disgusting.
The look on your face then was a picture.
Disgusting. I didn't like the bloke, but then I dislike him even more after watching that Amazon documentary. He's got to be one of the worst captains you could ever imagine going. Like, that would just piss me off so much if before every game he said the exact same thing every time and swore every second word. He's just, I don't know. I'm sorry, we're just having a few problems here with Ron. So Toby, you obviously, I can't see you, but right, I have no idea what's going on, but apparently we're just having a bit of trouble getting Ryan in. Okay, yeah, so Toby, you should be able to bring Ryan in. That's what Ryan's saying to me, that he's just waiting there and you just need to bring Ryan in. So maybe you want to... Toby, bring yourself in so we can talk. Sorry, this is great. This is just great show producing here.
Hey.
Oh, here he is. I was expecting to see Toby, and I
How's
see...
it going? Who's Toby? Is this just some guy you made up that you can shout at and you make mistakes? It's just like, Toby, come on, Toby again.
Every time he gets Marius in the DM, it's like, what's going on here? Oh, it's Toby. I have no idea what he's doing.
I think I need to invent a Toby for my household. Whenever my wife says anything, I'll be like, Toby, what's he doing again? Leave him washing out again.
Oh, fuck. I need to bring Toby in at the end just to prove that he's a real human being. It's quite funny. How are you, mate? It's good to see you.
Yeah, good, mate. Good yourselves?
Yeah, good. Yeah, no, very, very good. All right, let's get into the UFC. Not obviously a big card this week, but got to get Ryan along when you can. So we've got Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis in the main event. Other than that, there's not too much going on. I'll get some odds up on my screen once you take it away, Ryan. But is there anything other than the main event that's taking your fancy, mate?
Yeah, so like you say, there's not a lot going on really. It's a pretty weak card, but there's two bets that I think offer a little bit of value. I mentioned to you maybe last week or the week before that I thought Takeshi Sato was decent value at 2.65, and that's coming a little bit now. But Pinnacle have got it at 2.42, and I saw on Betfair.
Yeah, if you bring the odds up, Toby. Yeah, there we go. Thank you, Toby. Does exist. Yeah, there are the odds for the fight there. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So if you look at Betfair Exchange, 2.47 is pretty good. He's fighting Miguel Baeza, I think that's how you say it, or Baeza, who's coming off a win off Matt Brown. That was a really good fight. I don't know if you remember it or not, but it was pretty close. Matt Brown rocked him, looked like he was going to finish him early, didn't get it, and then Matt Brown got caught. But Matt Brown's 39 years old now. And obviously he's not. I think 5 years ago, Matt Brown would have taken that fight, and it was quite interesting because Baeza opened as a massive favourite in that fight as well. I think he was about 1.5, and then money came in on Brown, and the same things happened on this Sato fight. So I don't know if the odds makers know something about this Baeza, like maybe they've heard that he's really good in the gym or something. But from what I've seen, he just doesn't warrant these type of odds. And Sato is just a very solid fighter. He's coming off a KO win himself. He's 30 years old, and he's looks like he's kind of settled into the UFC now. He's had a few fights, and I just think the odds are way too wide. I think it should be much closer.
I think when you first told me about it, I think I got on at 2.65. Maybe that's when you first told me about Sato.
Yeah,
Sato, and now so now he's what did you say? He's into 2.45 at Pinnacle or something like that.
Yeah, well, 2.47 was available on Betfair, so that's still a really good price. I would probably have him like I'd still back him at 2.2, I think. So yeah, I'd be happy to take that. Like this Baeza, I don't really understand the hype behind him. I mean, he's 9-0, so fighters with undefeated records normally tend to get overvalued a little bit, I find. So perhaps it's that, but I think this is a good spot to go against him.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Brilliant, mate. We just got a question come through there. If you want to highlight that one for me, Toby. He says, this is from Marianic 009. He says, can you discuss the Conor versus Poirier since it has been confirmed? The odds came out at Pinnacle. They were at 1.5 for McGregor, and now they are almost at 1.4. Now, this is your beautiful scenario where you got your McGregor fight. You just, I don't know, you just never want to back McGregor because I just feel you're never going to get any value there. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think in general, fading McGregor's probably a good idea just because, when McGregor fights, you just got all this recreational money just piling into him, and he's generally always going to be overvalued. So, I mean, Poirier is a good fighter, and since they fought the first time, Poirier seems like he's evolved a lot more. He's a much better fighter now. He seems to hold a lot more power at 155 as well. But he's very hittable. That's the only problem. Like, when you watch Poirier fight, he gets hit a lot, and McGregor, as much as I don't really like the guy, he hits very hard. He's got that pinpoint left hand, and he might just deaden him. But I mean, McGregor's been messing around for a few years now as well, so that's got to take effect. Has he been training properly, or has he just been promoting his whiskey and snorting coke? It's like, what's he actually been doing?
Because I saw an interview with him. I can't remember who it was with now. And I'm sure a lot of people say it because they want people to buy into them when it's their upcoming fight and that kind of thing. But it was, I believe it was after his fight with Cowboy though, and he kind of said, when the lead up to the Nurmagomedov fight, I wasn't focused. Basically, as you said, I was doing this all recreational stuff, not really giving a shit, not training properly, and you could argue sort of the hunger was lost a bit. And he was like, but with this fight, I've got a lot of mental things. Obviously, he's going through a lot of private things, and I think obviously there was that girl that was saying that she had a baby and it was his, and all that stuff. All this going on behind the scenes, and that sort of thing. He said, "This is my fight with Cowboy. It's the first time in a long time that I've been able to fight with just a clear conscience, been able to be focused." I mean, obviously, whether you believe that or not, is kind of another thing. But what do you make of that? Which, particularly after that fight with Cowboy, and he said, I wanted a kind of a seasonal thing. I want to have 4 fights. I want to be fighting consistently up in here. And then obviously COVID happened, and then he wasn't allowed to fight that he wanted. So that's why he said he's going to retire. I was like, well, no, I'm not just going to fight this, that. I've told you these are the fights I want. What's the point? I'm being told I can't do this, I can't do that. So how do you see it? Do you see him telling the truth of he's changing his sort of back to his original?
Possibly, or maybe he's probably just kind of protecting his ego. I think if he's got a reason right for now why he didn't beat Khabib, and you know how bolshy he is, and the way he's full of confidence normally. So when a guy like that loses, they've got to find a reason. Otherwise, it just completely breaks their ego. So I think it's probably more likely to be that. And I think for Poirier, if he can just survive early on when Conor's always at his best, and maybe chop his legs a little bit, and maybe try and wrestle him and just wear him out a bit, then he's got a really good shot. So I could see these odds coming in even more because people just love McGregor. So, I mean, Poirier submission will probably be pretty good odds, I imagine. As long as it's 5 rounds, then I know already that I'll be on Poirier in some form, whether it's money line or submission. But yeah, I think that's the right side.
Cool. I have to say as well, thank you very much, because I got on your Dalby via decision.
Good stuff. Yeah,
there's a lot of people very unhappy about it, but I wasn't one of them.
I didn't think it was bad, to be honest.
It wasn't bad at all. This is just the perfect case of commentators getting it wrong. I think in the heat, just going along with the narrative. They obviously saw D-Rod was pretty successful in the first round, but there's a question whether he even won that round. And then they just kept going on with it. And I don't really like the combination of Joe Rogan and Daniel Cormier, to be honest. I think they're a little bit of both just hype masters a little bit. I think they need some balance there with Dominic Cruz or Dan Hardy or something there. I think they get taken over by the narrative way too often. And to be honest, they're not even scoring the fight. They're the worst. They're almost the worst people to go off. You're better off sitting at home and looking at it analytically, turn off the commentary and really score the fight. Because what they're doing is they're just talking about the fight. They're not looking at who's actually winning the fight points wise. So that was that. And like I said on Twitter, it was Dalby was at 3.5, I think, after the second round, and there was an argument that he'd won both the first and second round. At worst, it was 1-1. So yeah, this is a great case of how commentary can really shape the narrative.
Yeah. That is kind of the good thing about Rogan from a bettor's perspective, is he latches onto these narratives, and then he'll just keep talking about it, and then the odds get inflated because people are betting the other side. So if you are watching it and you're not as biased, and you can just look at it for what it is, then you can pick up some decent value. So.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like the McGregor conversation. People will just follow Joe Rogan because he's very popular and take his word for it. So it's probably a similar kind of thing in terms of recreational money. All right, should we? We got a question. Do we have? No, we didn't have a question. Sorry. What was the other fight you wanted to take a look at, or was it the Curtis Blaydes Lewis fight?
So I do have one for that, but there's also Malcolm Gordon versus a guy called Sue Medaji, who's he's fighting out of China, but he's actually Tibetan. He's the first ever Tibetan fighter to come into the UFC. So both of these guys are kind of lower tier. And Malcolm Gordon debuted a few months ago, and he got submitted in the first round. And Medajari, he came in and he won a decision against Sukumtat, who's a decent fighter. And he just looks really good, this Medajari. He reminds me of Machida a little bit. He just glides around the ring. He's got really good stand-up. He comes in with a straight left, which is really nice. And he just flows really well. And he's got a lot of KOs on his record. He's got over 10 KOs. And Malcolm Gordon, when he loses, tends to get finished. So although the money line's not great, let's just bring it up here. The money line's 1.31. I saw that you could get Medajari to win by KO at 2.62 with William Hill. So I think that's worth a bet.
Yeah, I've just got the odds checker up on the screen now. If you just want to highlight that for me, Toby. So yeah, you can get.
Yeah,
I mean, they're way out.
But...
They're. Oh no, is that Skybet? I mean, I don't know if this is out of line on. Oh no, here it is. Sorry. Yeah. So William Hill 2.62. You're right, mate, and they're way out. Like you've got Betfair, Sportsbook, and Paddy Power at 2.1. So. You got Betway too at 2.5. Would you take that 2.5 Betway?
Yeah, I'd take that. You could chuck it up on the exchange, and sometimes they get matched as well, but sometimes they don't. So but you should. If you put it at like 2.6, it should get taken. So that's what I usually do, just to try and preserve my bookie accounts.
Yeah, all right, awesome. Yeah, that's great. Because as you can even see, even if you didn't really like it that much, just by looking at the odds, you can see that William Hill are massive outliers compared to the rest of the bookies there. All right, cool. So you got those two fights, mate, and then we can have a look at the Curtis Blaydes and Derek Lewis fight, mate. What are your thoughts here?
So honestly, I think obviously Lewis has got the power, but Blaydes has got the wrestling. And I just feel that Blaydes should be able to dictate where this fight goes. He should be able to get takedowns fairly easily. I mean, we've seen Lewis get taken down by Cormier pretty easily, and we saw when he fought Latifi as well. Latifi came up from like heavyweight, so he's not even a big heavyweight, and he was able to get him down. And Lewis generally just tends to like power out of things when he's on the ground as well. And as big and strong as Blaydes is, I'm not sure if that'll work. And if it does work, can he continually do that? I don't think he can. So I like Blaydes here, but I don't like the money line because it's obviously very short now. So I actually like to take Blaydes inside the distance.
Yeah, okay. What do we got? Method of victory here. Just getting up the odds for this one. If you want to highlight this one, Toby, we've got Curtis Blaydes by KO. You can get 2.62 also. Yeah,
I'd probably take the submission as well, though, because I think Blaydes is, he's been working on his submissions apparently, and I would like to take that just in case he just doesn't go for the KO. So I did have a little look earlier at Dutch into selections to give you a better price, because I saw that I took it at Bet365 yesterday at 1.83, but that's come in. So I saw that you could Dutch him to win by KO and him to win by submission with the Paddy Power and Betfair group. So you get 2, 6, 2 and 6 on the submission, and that's 1.82 if you combine them. If you Dutch them. So you're getting better odds there than what's available with Bet365. So that's the play that I'd take. I think obviously Lewis is always going to be a KO threat, but Blaydes should be able to get this fight to the ground pretty easily. And then I just really don't see Lewis surviving for 5 rounds off his back. He's going to get tired. I think Blaydes is going to be able to pass, and he's either just going to pound him out from mount, or he'll probably get his back and either pound him out or take the submission. So yeah, I really like that play.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how big those odds are. That's a bit crazy, isn't it? I had a crack at Curtis Blaydes on money line. So I think he was at 1.31 earlier in the week, and I had a crack at that. I just thought 1.31. I know it's short, but for me it's too big. I thought he should be closer to 1.2. Curtis Blaydes on the money line.
Yeah, I mean Lewis is always the KO threat. He's a big, strong guy, but really, yeah, Blaydes should be able to dictate where this fight goes, and as long as it's sensible, take him to the ground. And yeah, I think he'll find the finish.
Yeah. Awesome, mate. All right. Before we get into both of your best bets of the weekend, I was going to ask about the Tyson Roy Jones Jr. fight because I can't believe it's happening. I only realised it was on this weekend the other day, but I think Tyson's at like 1.5 or something like that, and Roy Jones might be at 2.6 or 7 or something like that. But the problem is that the rules for this are just ridiculous. So it's so hard to judge what's, whether both are going to go for at least Tyson, whether he's going to like full on go for the knockout, and you just don't even know what's going to happen because of the rules. So do you have any thoughts on the odds, and if you'd even have a play, Ryan?
No, it's so many variables, and like how do you find value in that? Really, it's like, is there knockouts allowed? Some people have said there's no knockouts allowed. So I'm like, nobody's scoring it, I've heard also. So I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like a stay away fight.
I mean, I saw something the other day. Apparently, the rules for it are that no knockouts allowed. There's going to be no judges for it ringside. There won't be a winner.
There is judges.
There are, but apparently there's not going to be a winner declared. It's just
ceremonial.
If a cut occurs, the fight is over.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
But
I saw.
Apparently, is it true that Adesanya's going to commentate on it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Do you know what it makes me feel like? Do you remember on Rocky 6 when there's that commentator that's like, I can't believe I'm about to commentate on a Rocky fight? But it's just gonna be ridiculous. And I mean, yeah, obviously I'll probably end up watching it because it's Mike Tyson. I've never seen him live, so I'll watch it just for that sort of value. But I'm not going to be. I think you've got to be a bit of an idiot to have a play on it, surely.
I know it's a bit, yeah. There's that Jake Paul guy's fighting on the undercard as well, isn't he?
I hope he gets absolutely steamrolled.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, he's fighting a basketball player. Apparently.
Yeah, I know. But have you seen as well Logan Paul calling out Mayweather? It's like, mate, you couldn't beat KSI, who is another YouTuber, but you think you can go against a man who's 50-0? Like,
I'd like to see it just because I want to see him get knocked out. I'd like to see both the Paul brothers get knocked out, really. So,
but you could have both.
This is the other Paul brother.
Yeah. The other Paul brother.
Ah, okay. I've never even heard of these blokes. I mean, I've heard of them, but I've never ever watched their YouTube videos. What are they YouTube about?
Well, Logan Paul made news like years ago because he went to the suicide forest in Japan and put it on his videos because there was like a dead body hanging in one of his videos, and he made news because of that. And then he sort of like. But then I don't even know what they do, to be honest. Like,
they're just bellends, aren't they? They just
to sum it up, yeah.
That's pretty much what they are. Yeah.
Professional bellends, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
It works. It gets you lots of money to be a bellend.
Well, yeah.
All right.
Like a backhanded comment there.
All right. We got a question here from Marianic again, and he says, sorry for skipping into the future again, but what do you think about the Leon Edwards and Kazmat fight? The hype seems to be coming in, and I feel that Leon is a beast. What are your thoughts? I've seen the odds on this. I could try and bring them up, but
I think his gam's at about 1.6, is he? It's up on Betfair. I was looking at it the other day. So it's a tough one, really. Like, Edwards is very good. And then, like, how good is Cam's at? Because he's just been running through competition, but the competition's not been great. So it's difficult to know, really. But there is some kind of, like, buzz for Kamzat that's coming from, like, actual fighters. And normally when, like, fighters and camps are talking about how good somebody is, that's obviously, a lot more, what's the word?
Convincing.
It's a lot more
viable,
than it is if it's just, just buzz on the internet. So like he stopped Gustafsson in sparring, and he does look like he could be something special. But you should probably still fade him, I suppose, until we do see that he is actually, capable of beating fighters like Leon Edwards, because we've not really seen him in a 50-50 fight. We've not seen him in any like adversity. So, Leon's really good at it, and he can strike, and he gave Usman a pretty decent fight. So he's obviously got that defensive wrestling. So yeah, if I have to pick a side, I'd probably be on Leon Edwards.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to. I mean, Leon Edwards is. He should be fighting for a title shot. He's done enough to fight for a title shot, and now he's going up against a guy whose best win's been Gerald Meerschaert. So it's just like, obviously this guy's very good, but he's so unproven that it's almost just worth taking Leon Edwards and the fact that Chimaev might just be nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I think Edwards, he doesn't get much hype himself, but he's a really good fighter. So, when you look at the two and which fighter is going to more likely be overvalued, then it's going to be Khamzat's likely to be overvalued. So, yeah, probably take Leon Edwards.
Is this the same Khamzat that allegedly flew to Ireland to try and take out McGregor?
I don't know. Not sure about that.
I heard the story that apparently it might have been that he flew to Ireland.
Oh, yeah.
To spark him out. Well,
Right.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But they didn't even let him in, I don't think.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't, would they?
No. Imagine having enough time to I'll fly to Ireland and fancy knocking him out.
Imagine putting on your arrival card reason for stay. It's like knocking out your favourite person in Ireland. Classic. All right, well, let's do our best bets of the weekend then, fellas. We'll go with you, George, mate. What have you got?
Yeah, I'm going to risk it. I think I still like the look of sorry, my dog's going mad. Brighton to get 2 cards at 5 to 6. That was on Bet365. I do quite like that one. Stuart Atwell in charge. So that's that one for me. Brighton 2+ cards.
And what did you have 5 to 6?
Where did I have 5 to 6?
No, yeah. I'm sorry. How does that convert 5 to 6? Is it like 220 or something?
No.
2.2 is it, or is it 1.8?
I think it might be 1 point. Hang on. Oh, this is annoying. I've got to find where I did it. Bear with me.
No, you're right, mate. Should be doing this already, mate. Come on, this is a decimal odds podcast.
Yes, it's only 1.83, but I still think that obviously I'd have it lower than that, to be honest. So yeah.
Brighton to get 2 cards at 1.83. All right, love it. Ryan.
I'll go with the Sato bet just because that's the easiest one to get on. If you can get anything, if you can get anything above 2.4, I think that's a really solid bet. So yeah, I'll be happy to take that.
All right, happy days. And if you want to, I thought I might as well chime in with the best bet of the weekend. Put my neck on the line for once, and so I'm really putting my neck on the line here. Curtis Blaydes at I don't know what's he at now. Maybe it's not even worth getting on. Maybe I'll just take the one that you. Yeah, don't do that. Let's go. We'll go with the one that you said, Ryan. If you can get Curtis Blaydes with KO or submission. I don't know, anything over 1.78, something like that. You'd say it's pretty good value, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and if it loses, it's Toby's fault, isn't it, as well? Because it's Toby's fault.
Toby's just in my ear, feeding me nonsense. Yeah, it's always Toby's fault.
That's called schizophrenia, Alec. Get that sorted, pal.
Yeah.
Your invoices.
Oh, God. All right, well, if you want to go check out these blokes, the bloody rat bags themselves, you can find George Gamble at George Gamble on Twitter. And if you want to, go read his rubbish at We Love Betting. And then you got Ryan at Smart Sports or SM Sports Trader. And obviously go check out his website too, smartsportstrader.com. Not many YouTube questions coming in at this point, so we'll head straight into the quiz question of the week. Ryan, just so you can hear this one. What was the name of Maradona's first ever club? Was it A, Newell Old Boys, 2 or B, Argentinos Junior, C, Boca Juniors, or D, River Plate? I'll let you think over that one because George has had plenty of time to think about this one. What are you going to go with here, George?
I didn't really need to think about it, to be honest.
Fucking hell. All right.
Ryan,
do you want to go?
Yeah.
Are you as confident, Ryan?
No, I've got no idea. I'll say Newell's Old Boys, I guess.
I said the same thing, mate, so don't be ashamed.
No, so you got his second club in there as well. His second club was Boca Juniors, but he started his career. He made his debut 10 days before he was 16 for Argentinos Juniors.
Did he? Wow.
How good is this man? I mean, you slipped up last week. You didn't get the relegation battle right from 1992, which is just disgusting. But
I brought Oldham out of the bag who weren't even relegated. But
But no, fabulous stuff, George. Well done. Another quiz answer for the week. All right, and that'll do us. Next podcast that's coming out, I have no idea actually. There's I've just written down on my notes here what's the next podcast coming out. I've got no idea. Nothing new. Probably just the preview next week. So tune in next week. But other than that, thanks for listening, everyone. Make sure you do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen to our podcast. And if you're looking to implement some of the value betting strategies we talked about today, start a free week trial of TradeMate Sports and start your value betting journey. Toby, I forgot to tell you, mate, this is the point where you're supposed to play the outro video. So I haven't showed you that, though, so maybe we'll just go straight off live.
Toby.
If you want to, Toby, you can find the other video there. It's an outro video, but it doesn't matter. We'll just end the stream, mate. Cheers, fellas, and see you again next week.